Ms. Groszek, tell me about a time that you have disagreed with this, something the administration has presented to you, where you voted against something that the administration presented to the board.
Voted against something. A lot of our debate and whatnot often occurs as information is coming in versus at
the
a
meeting.
I am struggling to think of any, I can think of one incident when one board member voted against something, and it was more of a personal conscience, and I honestly don't recall the issue, to be absolutely honest. And he said at that time, I really feel that I have to vote no. However, I do realize that the board as a whole is going to pass this, and I am in full support of the decision that they're making. So personally, I disagree, but understand, because this is the way it goes, and so therefore I will support what is moving forward. I have not been in that situation at this time.
So you haven't ever opposed anything?
Not by the time it has hit the floor. There are a lot of things that that's what I'm trying to say. There are a lot of things that we battle out way before it becomes an action item on the agenda.
Well, let me ask you this. Is that conducive to public participation? And is that transparent to the public if the discussion is happening outside of the meeting?
It isn't a discussion between the board outside of the meeting, because that would be absolutely illegal. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the information that is, for example, if you're the superintendent and you are giving me some information on a program, I may be reading through this and say, wait, what's this? I'm not sure I understand this, or I disagree with this, or where the heck did you get this from? And that's a conversation between you and I. That information is often clarified and then brought forward. I mean, it's really hard to have this conversation without talking about a specific thing, and I'm hard pressed to come up with one at this moment.
So let me ask you, when is a time where you've questioned something the administration, not necessarily in the meeting or in your vote, but when is a time where you've questioned something the administration has presented to you, or where you've disagreed and maybe allowed them to change that, or push them to change something that they wanted to do?
There are things that are happening all the time with construction, with...
Can you name something specific?
There was a lot of discussion as we were building the Wildcat Stadium as to what would be the most appropriate pieces and parts to have, whether we could fold in some of the arts along with the stadium, so that there was more of a continuum, because obviously the stadium is for athletics, but were there some things that we could do architecturally that could bring in some of the arts as well. There's discussions that happen all the time on different pieces and parts.
When you say arts, do you mean
we were
theater?
Talking about columns, you know, as far as
Okay.
looking at architecture.
Okay.
And that type of thing. I'm trying to think of some other ones that are, some of them have to do with construction, some of them are as simple as where a driveway is going, and some are as complex as how to put together a program.
Okay. Mr. Whiteman, when is a time where you have disagreed with a decision the board has made, if you can, or the administration?
I'm not sure I can point to anything in particular. I mean, I've actually, over the past few months, I've been coming to a couple of the Board of Education meetings. They try to run it very efficiently, I think.
What do you mean when you say efficiently?
Well, they seem to go through the agenda items relatively straightforwardly. It's obvious that they've talked about things beforehand and are in pretty much agreement on what's going to happen. I think the thing I get concerned about is when I was sitting in some of those meetings and they refer to something, Actually, thank God for Mr. Snyder, because he would explain some of the stuff. There was, I think, if I remember correctly, you're putting a cell phone tower on the high school grounds, and you get there's some benefit the school gets. And he explained that, and that was very good. There is an opportunity for anybody who comes to the meeting to say things. I haven't noticed a lot of people there to say a lot, but and that's the reason I sort of started coming. And I would like, I have to admit, I would like a little bit more awareness of, sometimes they vote on things, and I would like a little more understanding of what they're voting on. As me as the outsider, it seems to me there should be something there. This line item, and everybody sort of says yay or nay, and I have to admit, me as the person just sitting in there didn't really know what it was about. And I'd like to see more discussion on that in terms of, and that could be as simple as just doing the agenda beforehand and sort of having people able to look it up. It shouldn't be anything particularly big.
Actually,
It is
online.
available, yeah.
Right. It is online and available, as well as all the attachments that are there. And it's really interesting. I will be honest and say the first time that I ever thought about running for the Board of Education was prior to even moving to Ohio. I was living in Texas at the time, and they had just built a new elementary school building. The district had taken on an inclusionary philosophy, and the elementary school building that they were building had a special education wing. And I did stand up in that meeting and said, I'm really confused. Your philosophy and the building you're about to build are in opposition to each other. And different board members said, wow, I wish you had said something sooner. And my question was, how would I have known to say something sooner? And the answer only is coming to board meetings and going through agendas and seeing the different things that happen. When you have a large organization, there's a lot of moving parts. And so it is difficult, and it's something that we struggle with all of the time, even as board members, to make sure to sometimes re-question things in the public meeting as well, just so people can hear what the cell tower is for, and that there is a benefit monetarily for it. So again, if you as the superintendent are bringing me a piece of information and I am questioning you, then it's really helpful if I ask that question a second time, even though you've answered it to my satisfaction.
Right. And
which is why when you ask, well, tell me what you've disagreed with. Well, a lot of things are hashed out because communication is difficult whenever you're talking about complex ideas and things.
But my intention in asking that question was, I mean, do you think the public should maybe be involved, and you just indicated that, should be involved in some of those discussions that are happening ahead of the meeting so that they understand what's being voted on, so.
They are always welcome to. They're always welcome to take a look at the agenda ahead of time. In fact, every single meeting, I'm currently serving as the president of the board, and there is a section within the meeting which is community communications. Individuals do have the opportunity to contact us ahead of time on informational things that they may want to bring forward. We've had people talk about diet. We've had people talk about obesity. We've had people talk about a number of things where it was an issue to them specifically that they wanted to make sure that we were aware of and that we were addressing. And it is a time for people in the public to give us input. It is not an interactive at that time, but then can go into interactive pieces later. The other thing that is open is to any action item that is on the agenda. So if you had looked at the agenda ahead of time and had seen that Mayfield was changing its colors away from green and white, and you had a problem with that, which is not happening, just using it as an example. But if you had a problem with that, then you would be able to stand up in public and say, hang on here, we've always been green and white, and I think it's really important because of X, Y, and Z. And that often will stimulate thoughts within the board that can change a vote.
Okay.
Can I offer
Mr. Whiteman?
something on
Yes,
that?
please.
Yeah, I am sympathetic to the school board. They've got a lot of moving parts of things to do, and it's a big school system. There's no doubt about that. But I would encourage the board on something like this. Everybody is very busy anymore. Kids, you know, all the programs that the kids have, adults, two working family members and stuff like that. It's not like it was where somebody had a problem and, oh, I'm going to go to the school board meeting and complain. I would, at least in the ones I've been to, I've never heard anyone really get up and complain about anything. I would encourage the board to maybe sort of go out and solicit people's feedback on stuff a little bit more in terms of that, because there are people who have, I think, have, at least in their minds, have something happen that they didn't like, but they really don't have the time to come down to the school board and wait for a particular time and say it in front of a group of people who are very smart, capable people who are trying to run the school system. A lot of people, I think there is a lot of churning, I guess I'll use that term, with people. Maybe it's not a lot, maybe I shouldn't say a lot, but at least some.
Actually, if I may follow up on that, one of the main jobs as a board member is being a conduit of communication. Mm-hmm. I do get calls at home, and that is generally the place that people feel more comfortable in starting at least the conversation of whatever it is they feel disgruntled about or upset. I would like to say that most board members are good air traffic controllers. Mm-hmm. In being able to assist individuals in taking their concerns in the proper direction. Because being upset about something that's going on, the school board meeting isn't necessarily the appropriate venue, to be honest with you.
It may not be.
Mm-hmm. There are other times where that you feel frustrated enough that you feel you've used every other venue and you wish to come and vent there as well. Generally speaking, in my opinion, bringing a problem to the school board meeting should be something that is a general and more global look type of problem versus something very specific. If I have,
I will say, I do know, was it last year, a group of parents came to you with, I believe, worried about the middle school grading system and stuff. And you guys handled it very quickly, from everything I could determine, because that group seemed to dissipate pretty quick.
And very honestly, there was a lot of talk ahead of time, and people did decide that they felt more comfortable en masse to come forward, and that is absolutely not only your right, it's your privilege to be able to do so, and that's fine. I mean, that's what
you have a responsibility to do it.
That's what we're there for.
Yeah.